Welcome into the Commander's Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Thank you guys for joining me here on Thursday morning, just hours before the Washington Commanders take on the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field on Thursday Night Football tonight. We're going to be going live right here on the Commander's Report for that game. We're going to be going live at 7 p.m. Eastern, a little bit over an hour before kickoff. We'll have 75 minutes of pregame coverage, followed by a live play-by-play of every single play that happens in this football game, followed by extensive post-game coverage. If you guys want to join me later today and later tonight for our coverage of this huge football game for the Washington Commanders, make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. But I wanted to get in front of a camera here before I headed into the office today, guys, and just go over some of the news of the day, some of the things that you guys need to know, some of the big news items here before the Commanders play really this big litmus test type of game versus a team that many people are considering the number one team in the NFL after Week 1. They completely dominated the Detroit Lions, the number one seed in the NFC last year. And last week versus the Detroit Lions at Lambeau Field, and it was very convincing, and they looked really freaking good both sides of the ball. So if the Commanders can stick with this team tonight and they can beat them on the road in front of a national audience, I think that's going to wake a lot of people up to just how good Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders can be this season. So this is a massive evening, but we got some news this morning that Laremy Tunsil, the new left tackle here for the Washington Commanders, the team traded for him this offseason, has agreed to a restructured contract that gives him an $18 million signing bonus. That is former salary being converted into a signing bonus that's going to prorate over the next several seasons, over the next 4 years past this year to be exact. So it actually frees up over $14 million, almost $14.5 million in cap space for the Washington Commanders this season, and now increases their total amount of cap room to over $31 million, which now puts them in the top 5 for most cap space among NFL teams here in 2025. So that's definitely something to keep your eye on here, because why does Adam Peters feel like he needs that cap space? Are they planning on making some sort of big move before the trade deadline this year? Well, this move certainly puts them in the position where they can do that, but it also means if they don't use that cap room this year, that it automatically transfers over to 2026. So I think that this is a good move. It gets more money in the pocket of Laremy Tunsil. It also gives the Commanders more spending power this season. So I think that this is a good move for both sides. It's a move that makes sense for both sides. And I'm happy that Laremy is happy. I'm happy the Commanders are happy. This is one of those moves where everybody wins, at least in the short term. Now, that does add a couple of dead cap hits in 2027 and 2028 for the Commanders that they didn't already have. So you're kind of moving money down the line here that wasn't there before. But certainly in a win-now type of scenario for the Washington Commanders, it's nice to have that extra cap space at your disposal. Some other news here that you guys should know about heading into tonight's matchup is the questionables in terms of the injury report for both sides. For the Washington Commanders, punter Tressway is questionable heading into the night. Hopefully he's going to be able to go. And then Dietrich Wise, who had a really good start to his Commanders tenure last week versus the Giants, is also questionable to play in tonight's game. We'll keep you guys updated, and we'll have the full inactives list for the Commanders on our pregame show tonight. But then for the Packers, Micah Parsons is technically listed as questionable. Now, he was listed as questionable last week, and he played. Now, I think that a big question mark heading into tonight is just how much does Micah Parsons play? He really only played less than half the defensive snaps for the Packers in Week 1 versus Detroit. And it'll be interesting to see, A, if he plays, he probably will, but B, what percentage of the snaps does he play, especially if the game is close, because the thing about the Lions game last week is that it wasn't really competitive. The Packers were really dominating through all 4 quarters, so they could afford to play Micah Parsons a little bit less and play conservatively with his workload. But if the Commanders are right there with the Packers, especially late in the game, it'll be interesting to see what the workload looks like for Micah Parsons tonight. Along with Parsons, Aaron Banks and Zach Tom, 2 starting offensive linemen for them, are questionable to play tonight. They left last week's game with injuries and did not return. They did not practice this week. obviously on the short week in preparation for this Thursday night football matchup. So if those two guys are out for this game, guys, that's going to give a big boost to this Commanders defensive line. And I do think one of the keys to victory for Washington is to win the line of scrimmage on that side of the ball. Force Jordan Love to play lights out and outduel Jayden Daniels tonight. I think that is going to be very, very important for the Commanders in order to win this game. Then also Nate Hobbs, their number one corner, is also questionable tonight. So if all three of those starters are out for tonight's game, that's going to mean Terry McLaurin is going to have a very beneficial matchups tonight. Jayden Daniels, I think, is going to be trying to get the ball to Terry quite a bit after only connecting with him twice in the season opener versus the Giants last week. So just keep your eye on those injuries here, and we'll keep you guys updated with the latest on those questionable statuses once we get to our pregame show later this evening. But I just want to talk just a little bit generally here about tonight's game, guys, and what this means for the Commanders' season. All right, this is pretty much just an early litmus test for the Burgundy and Gold. Last week, I think it was obviously a very winnable matchup. If they would have lost to the New York Giants, that would have been a big upset. That would have been probably a game where the Commanders lost more than the New York Giants won, especially with Andrew Thomas out for that matchup. But the Commanders took care of business. They were too heavily penalized. They didn't score as many points as, frankly, they probably should have in that game, given that they had over 430 yards of offense. But tonight is an opportunity to really kick off their season and really show the world that they can hang with the best of the best in the NFL. I mean, the Green Bay Packers are by far and away the favorite to win the NFC North this year. They're expected to be legit Super Bowl contenders after trading for Micah Parsons. They're expected to have one of the best pass rushes in the National Football League. So there's a lot that the Commanders and this Commanders team can prove tonight in front of a national audience. I get a very similar vibe for tonight's game, guys, as we had last year Monday Night Football versus the Cincinnati Bengals, when Jayden Daniels went out there and outdueled Joe Burrow, who had one of the better statistical performances of the year. I mean, I think it was both teams were over 30 points. Both teams were lighting up the scoreboard. Joe Burrow had a phenomenal game, and a rookie, Jayden Daniels, outdueled him and had that amazing final touchdown throw to Terry McLaurin to seal it. And that was kind of Jayden's coming out party as what would set up to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, rookie season for an NFL quarterback in league history. Now, I think that he has a very similar opportunity tonight, even though Green Bay's secondary is certainly vulnerable. They don't have a great cornerback room, and because of that, the trench play I think is going to be super, super important tonight. All right, both sides of the ball, because I think defensively you don't want Josh Jacobs to be able to run all over you, set up the play action game, all that stuff. You want to force Jordan Love into third and long situations where he can make poor decisions with the football, and hopefully some of his inaccuracies and inconsistencies as a thrower can rear their ugly head. And it's going to be interesting to see which version of Jordan Love we get tonight. But if the Commanders can win up front at the line of scrimmage, that's going to really force Jordan's hand. And then on offense, if you can slow down Micah Parsons, if you can slow down Rashawn Gary, if you can slow down Lucas Van Ness and that really nice trio of pass rushers that they have now, that's going to give Jayden Daniels the opportunity to pick apart this frankly depleted and untalented Packers secondary. And, you got one of the best pass protecting left tackles, if not the best in the league, in Laremy Tunsil. I feel like he's going to do a good job protecting Jayden's blind side. And then I think the Commanders should provide help to Josh Connolly Jr., no matter who he's going up against. Get John Bates out there to help double team Micah Parsons, do some of those things, because frankly, if you only have like 3 people go out on routes, even 4 people go out on routes for Jayden, he's going to find the right person. And I believe that, they're going to be able to find open lanes against this secondary, even if you're pretty much straight up double teaming Micah Parsons on the outside with a tight end, or you put running back help out there to help chip block. It's just important to give Jayden time tonight, because that's really the cat and mouse game with this Green Bay Packers defense, is that their secondary is so bad, where if you can just hold up and you got a quarterback that can scan the field, that can find open receivers and can deliver accurate footballs, you can have success, I believe, against this Green Bay Packers team. And I think, this Packers team might need to be taken down a peg tonight. I think Colin Cowherd ranked that team number 1 in the NFL after what they did to the Lions last week. There's a lot of people calling them the favorites in the NFC. And if the Commanders can go into their building in front of a national audience tonight and outplay these guys, and I do believe, with Deebo Samuel looking as good as he did last week, what we know Terry McLaurin is capable of, what we know the connection between Jayden and Zach Ertz is, and the way that this defense played last week, I have a lot of optimism about tonight's game. Let's put it that way, guys. We'll see how things unfold. We will be live tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button. We also have our full in-depth preview for Commanders versus Packers up on our channel right now. If you guys want to see my keys to victory, if you guys want to see the schematic breakdowns for the Green Bay Packers, what you guys can expect to see from tonight's game from the Packers schematically, offensively, defensively, their roster, the players that they have, both sides of the ball, their weaknesses, their strengths as a roster. We break it all down in our preview. So if you guys want to get even more pregame coverage here for the Washington Commanders and you haven't checked out our preview yet, I'll put the chip in the top right of today's show here, guys, so that you guys can check out that video today and get yourselves ready for this high-flying Week 2 Thursday Night Football matchup. I can't wait to share the experience with you guys tonight, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders.